revelation.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. Rudy's Revelation, finding revelation in the news and media. It is January 29th, 2026, Thursday. So today we're going to be talking about universal basic income. The plan to offset AI job losses. That's the whole point, isn't it? Got other stories to get through, over 35 headlines to get through today. So without further ado, let's read the news. All right, we're going to start with The Guardian. Artificial intelligence. Universal basic income could be used to soften hit from AI job losses in the United Kingdom, minister says. Lord Stockwood says people in government definitely talking about the idea as technology disrupts industries. That's the whole point of universal basic income, if you didn't know. This has all been planned out. This is part of the conspiracy. This is part of the globalist plan for you and I and everybody else to stick us in our houses, give us UBI and the distractions of a virtual world, so we're not going to interfere with their global plan. It's actually pretty sad, and I hate even to talk about it, but this is exactly what we're going through today and into the future. So if you think just because Trump is elected to office that somehow things are just going to be okay, things really aren't okay, and they're not going to be okay. The New World Order agenda is not undermined. You hear Alex Jones a lot talking about the globalist plan is, on the rocks, and it's really not. Although there has been a surge in conservative populism around the globe, the people are not aware of this very frightening future that we're moving into, which is artificial intelligence is made to supplant humans. And so what's going to happen to humans when they have no jobs, no careers, nothing to pay them for their labor, because labor will be supplanted by technology? What are they going to do? How are they going to get money? Well, they're going to be given money by the government. That's why socialism, in the eyes of the global elite, has to take hold and has to be there to provide a soft landing before the eventual extermination of a majority of humans on the planet. And that's already going on. We got a new virus we're going to talk about as well. So let's move on to the next headline from The Independent. Get 1,600 pounds a month to do nothing. Welcome to an AI future where nobody works, as concerns grow over AI surpassing human abilities. Within 2 to 3 years, it already has, whether universal basic income could be the solution in a world without traditional jobs. This is the plan. It's not, they're trying to entice people here. They're trying to entice people to say, oh, you don't have to work. You can just do whatever you want to do. But there'll be no market to do what you want to do, whether it's, as a hobby, whether it's podcasting or anything else you want to do, because AI will do it better. So there's going to be no market. Even if you don't want money from what you're doing, you want to take a photograph, you want to paint a picture, you want to make some pottery, you want to do whatever, technology will do it better than you. So nobody's going to want what you have to produce, whether it's for monetary gain or it isn't. Going back to the story, every week 282 pounds appears in Eleanor O'Donovan's bank account. The 27-year-old is a multidisciplinary artist who sculpts and makes films and installations, but the money isn't payment for her work, nor is it a form of benefit or a gift from a generous benefactor. It isn't means tested, and it comes with no obligation to produce anything in return. How she chooses to spend it is entirely up to her. Now, there's a caveat there I'm going to get into. It may sound too good to be true, but O'Donovan is one of 2,000 artists and cultural workers currently participating in basic income pilot scheme in Ireland. Now, what we're not going to talk about too much today, which I probably wanted to bring it in as the word of the day, but it's not really a word, it's a phrase, and it's called the social credit score. And this is the cornerstone of nouveau socialism, that with CBDCs. So social credit score is going to mean if you don't behave correctly, you're going to get docked some of your UBI. And as this article says, it comes with no obligation to produce anything, and how this person chooses to spend the UBI is entirely up to her. It won't be, because A, you'll have CBDCs which will track exactly how you spend it and whether or not you could spend it on certain things. And also whether or not you'll be able to spend money you already have if somehow you violate social laws or norms. Right? This is the future we're talking about here. Unless we can break free from this, and I don't mean to be black-pilled, but there's nothing to indicate that this agenda is not going to continue forward. America is really the only hope. I mean, the fact is we have to stick to our guns, literally, and the Constitution. If we do not preserve all of our individual liberties, we're going to fall into technological slavery. Now, everybody's talking about Nazis with ICE officers and the Border Patrol and whatever. That's not Nazis. But what is likened to Nazis, or really the Gestapo, right? You're saying? So I've always said the FBI is the United States Secret Police. Now, if you didn't know anything, the FBI used to be something that it claimed to be. Nowadays, it is based, or more, it mimics Britain's MI5, which is domestic intelligence. MI stands for military intelligence, 5 is domestic, 6 is foreign or international. But now the next headline, Zero Hedge, UK government to create British FBI, roll out nationwide facial recognition cameras. Now, wait a second here. This is not the British FBI. The British already has domestic intelligence. That's MI5. This is something completely new. What is this? Well, we're going to explain it right now. The British Home Security unveiled plans in Parliament on January 26 for a new National Police Service, NPS, which is modeled on the FBI and will take over the fight against terrorism and organized crime in the United Kingdom. That's not what it's there for. The NPS will replace the National Crime Agency, which covers England and Wales, but it will also have a UK-wide role. Of course it will. On Monday, the Home Office published a 106-page white paper that sets out in detail the new police structure and how it will be supported by state-of-the-art technology. This is something completely different. This is technological-based enforcement of cultural norms. And you'll see what I'm getting into now, because you're going to need a domestic Gestapo to police the people who resist what's coming. And that's what this is for. This is not necessarily MI5 that looks through. MI5 is really looking at risks, domestic risks to the state. This is something completely different. This is going to be policing people. This is going to be the outfit that's policing people online, and they visit homes and stuff, and stop you from stop your freedom of speech, etc. To enable the rapid and responsible adoption of AI and automation technologies by police, the new National Center for AI in Policing, known as Police AI, would be created. So that's exactly what they're talking about. There's also plans to roll out facial recognition cameras nationwide to help police catch wanted criminals on watch lists. The number of facial recognition camera vehicles would be increased from 10 to 50. And that's not, who is someone going to hold that? Hold them to that number? Could be 500, it could be 5,000. What this is doing is AI is going to flag the people they're looking for, and then possibly in the future humanoid robots will do this, but you'll have police go around and scoop up people that they're looking for who violated hate speech rules and all these other types of neo-feudalistic enforcement. This is not immigration enforcement, which is ICE is doing, which is lawful law enforcement. It's legitimate. This new thing in Britain is just going to enforce what's coming. Stay in your house. You got your UBI that you'll be able to pay for your video games, which will keep you occupied while you're in your house, and you'll be able to pay your food and your rent for a while. To that dwindles down so you won't have anything. You'll just be able to have a one-room thing. Eventually, you won't even have to pay for that. They'll just give you that until you're eliminated one way or another. All right, let's go to what everybody else is talking about, because we're still in this country, in the United States, we're still talking a lot about Alex Preddy and ICE and these deaths and stuff. I still think he was targeted, and I think this is why. Because speaking of facial recognition, you don't think the FBI and federal law enforcement has technologies that know who these agitators are, and perhaps Alex Preddy was going to be made an example of. I don't know whose bright idea this was, but these definitely hit squad goons, I think, went after Preddy because they knew he'd be carrying, and that would give them a legitimate reason to kill him. Is that really, I'm just speculating here, is that really what went down? Either or, and this might sound harsh, it's legitimate, because I don't think civilians, let's just put it that way, I don't think civilians should be able to insert themselves in to disrupt, obstruct law enforcement operations. And they're legitimate. It's not like what they claim is happening, that they're just good, well-intentioned people are just being picked out, racially profiled, and picked up off the street or at Home Depot or whatever. That's not the case. There have been a few incidents of American citizens being picked up, but most of these people are here legally. And if they came here under the Biden administration, even if they've been granted asylum, they should be set for deportation, because the Biden administration was acting unconstitutionally and unlawfully. So you just call everybody asylum seekers. You have the NGOs down there telling the migrants that when they come and cross the border illegally, just say, I'm just seeking asylum. And they tell them exactly what to say. And everybody gets an asylum hearing 10 years in the future. And since they have a hearing that all of a sudden they shouldn't be deported, they're not protected. They're not. They have in most cases, they have no case for asylum. And certainly they haven't been vetted. If you're coming from a communist country, could you be persecuted for your free speech? And if you could demonstrate that, okay, maybe I'll give you that. But a lot of times it was these places like Venezuela just emptied their prisons and their insane asylums and sent everybody to America. Okay. Alex Preddy. Fox News video appears to show Alex Preddy spit at federal agents. That's assault. Violently damage SUV days before fatal CBP shooting. I think it was ICE shooting. So Fox is wrong here. The CBP is the people that he encountered 2 weeks ago. I think it was ICE that shot him. So it's bad reporting by Fox, but whatever. What I want to do now, I think, is get into this video that shows the incident. Hold on a second. I think I screwed it up. Let's take a look at Ilhan Omar's thing. I have this video here too, so. Oh gosh. All right, let's look at this again. Oh, this is after the event. Yeah, you don't even know it. You don't even know what.
Substance before
or face impeachment.
A man suddenly lunged toward Omar and squirted her with a liquid substance before security grabbed him and took.
Yeah, they don't even say what he said. Supposedly it was yeah, let's just, I want to go to this video here. All right, here's the video of Alex Preddy. And it shows him confronting CBP officers. He gets in their face and yells at him. Then he spits at him, and he's armed at this case. Then he goes and he kicks the taillight out, and then later is dragged down and thrown to the ground. They said he broke a rib. Oh my gosh. That's funny. I have to check something here. All right, moving on in any case. Let's go on. Sorry about that little distraction with the headlines. You might have heard about this as well. New York Post, unhinged Virginia nurse who encouraged colleagues to inject ICE agents with paralytic drug is swiftly fired. One American News has the headline, Virginia nurse fired after posting videos instructing how to sabotage ICE agents, including drugging and poisoning. A Virginia nurse has been fired after filming a series of videos on TikTok with instructions how to sabotage U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement agents. The Virginia Commonwealth University Health announced following an investigation the individual involved in the social media videos is no longer employed at VCU Health. The hospital told Fox News Tuesday. Following the investigation, in addition, VCU Health has fulfilled its reporting requirements under Virginia state law. This woman is a whack job. The kind of things she said in a video, and this is all over the United States. People are deluded. They don't know what they're talking about. They think that they're being encroached on by some sort of authoritarian Fourth Reich, like Nazis That's just not the case. They're deluded. Libs of TikTok said, meet Melinda, a healthcare worker at VCU Health. She posted a series of videos encouraging people to inject ICE agents with succinylcholine, a temporary paralysis drug, and spray poison on them. She encourages women to go on dates with agents and drug their food. Insane. Wait, it's this it's this false righteousness that people are engaged in. Somehow you think you're doing the right thing by fighting the man, by encouraging violence and poisoning, sabotage and death. We just reported the other day about a West Virginia librarian trying to recruit snipers to kill Trump. What is wrong with people? This military-grade PSYOP has been very successful because half the population, mostly women who are susceptible to these types of things, especially if the propaganda rides along a thread of compassion, then women seem to go along with it. Most women have the agreeable personality trait. She went on to say in the videos that grab some syringes with needles on the end and fill them with saline or this succinylcholine, a neuromuscular blocker that causes immediate temporary paralysis and has side effects including muscle pain and heart rhythm changes, or poison ivy water in a water gun. Aim for faces and hands. Get on Tinder, get on Hinge, find these guys. They're around. If they're an ICE agent, bring some X-Lax and put it in their drinks. Get them sick. Nobody's going to die, just enough to incapacitate them. Get them off the street for the next day. What is wrong with people? Completely unhinged. They've lost any moral high ground, fortitude to rest on. These people are insane. They've been made insane by the trauma of COVID when most of this PSYOP went into effect. It really went into effect back in 2015. They started rolling it out. But if you couple it with trauma, it's a lot more effective. And there's more. Fox News, transgender Antifa extremist charged with attempted murder after skating on death threat to Republican Representative Nancy Mace. Michael Richard Fadich, who allegedly posted a graphic showing gun pointed at Congresswoman's face in May, was charged in shooting months later. Now, she complained that this guy was never charged. Now, people that make these types of threats online in this political climate certainly have to be charged and put in jail. At least till things, I would say, for 3 or 5 years until things calm down, and they might ever calm down. Violent extremist and transgender suspect who allegedly posted a graphic assassination threat against Republican Nancy Mace is now charged with attempted murder months after prosecutors ignored warning signs. The suspect was dangerous and a failure, Mace says, allowed preventable shooting to happen. The arrest of Michael Richard Fadich, who goes by the name Rem Heathen, certainly a heathen, came months after she reported what she described as a clear death threat the prosecutors declined to pursue. In this certain political climate, all these things should be taken seriously. Portland police say the attempted murder charge stems from a December shooting in the Oregon City. Officers responding to reports of gunfire later found a man suffering from gunshot wounds behind an apartment complex. The victim was transported to the hospital with serious injuries that were not believed to be life-threatening. Well, a gunshot wound is a serious injury. Look at this knucklehead. Oh, my God. Police said the suspect, who they referred to as Heathen, of course it is, Oregon, was among the individuals interviewed during the investigation and that multiple firearms, including a rifle and handguns, were seized. Grand jury later indicted Heathens on charges including attempted murder, assault, unlawful use of a weapon, and coercion. Heathen was arrested on January 8th, California, transferred into custody. In Oregon, a second suspect was also arrested on weapons and coercion charges. The blood is on the hands of every prosecutor who looked at this threat and looked away. Nancy Mace said. I pray for the safety of the women he's housed with. So he went to a women's prison because he's a man and says he's a woman. I'm curious to know what the coercion was. Is it like, say I'm a woman or I'm going to shoot you? I'm a ma'am. You're a man? No, I'm a ma'am. So ridiculous. And I'm not saying these people don't have legitimate issues. Most of the endocrine disrupting chemicals physically convince people to think they're the opposite gender. Let's move on to the Atlantic. Tim Walz fears a Fort Sumter moment in Minneapolis, and I'm sure the Atlantic agrees. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz worries that the violence in his state could produce a national rupture. I mean, is this Fort Sumter? And unfortunately, that refers to the Civil War. That's, if you don't know your history, that's where the Civil War started. The Confederacy fired on Fort Sumter, which is in Charleston Harbor. He mused in an interview in his office at the state capitol, the island fortification near Charleston, South Carolina, is where Confederate forces fired the first shots of the Civil War in 1861. Now it's federal forces that are risking a breach. It's a physical assault. Walz told me it's an armed force that is assaulting, that's killing my constituents, my citizens. They're enforcing legitimate law. The reason these people were killed is because you said put your bodies on the line, which they did. And if you interfere with police who have the ability to use legitimate lethal force, you're risking your life. There's no other way to put it. And like I said, I'm no fan of the cops. I appreciate what they do for my tax dollars. Sometimes I don't. You know, in the municipality I live in, sometimes you call the police to get them to do something and they just don't do it. Someone's breaking the law and you go, could you stop him from breaking the law? They don't. They sent a strongly worded memo. It's like, they just think that if they roll the squad car by, that somehow the people will just stop doing what they're doing. But as soon as they drive away, the people continue. New York Post, Minnesota cops beg Walz, politicians, to let them work with ICE. Say they could have prevented shootings. The head of a major Twin City police union slammed local officials for blocking cooperation between local cops and ICE and Border Patrol agents, saying if they had been involved, there would be no loss of life. It comes of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz agreed to have his top cop work with President Trump's border czar Tom Homan after he rushed to Minneapolis on Monday after Homeland Security Kristi Noem was sidelined. St. Paul Police Federation President Mark Ross blamed state and local officials for the anti-ICE protest violence, saying that if highly trained cops were allowed to work with the feds, it would likely have prevented the killing of Renee Good and Alex Pretty. Indeed. There's no doubt about that. The politicians, Tim Walz, Jacob Frey, are directly responsible for those people's death. Not to mention the left-wing NGOs that are sponsored by the communist Chinese and other socialists. This is not the Nazis. This is not 1930s Germany. It's not. It's the federal government that has a Republican administration because the majority in the democratic process voted for these people to do what they're doing. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean you can resist. You're on the wrong side. I have no problem with your opinion. If you don't if you think if people can make it over the border legally or otherwise, they get to stay. I don't agree with you. And if you want to try to change the law, you could do that. But right now, the law is people who come here illegally get deported, period. There's no due process or anything. The due process is, can you prove you're here illegally? And if you can't, bye-bye. Now, if there are extenuating circumstances, that's a different story. If a judge has protected them from deportation for one reason or another, okay. But in most cases, that's not even valid. 92% of all asylum hearings are denied because they don't have grounds for asylum. And like I said, everybody who came in over the past 4 years or under the Biden administration is all suspect. Deadline has the headline, Springsteen slams King Trump's private army from the DHS in a new anti-ICE song, Streets of Minneapolis. What a fucking loser. Now, I like Bruce Springsteen. I think it was 78 when Born to Run came out. Everything after that fucking sucked. Born in the USA. I mean, people might like that song for its patriotic overtones. But it's awful. He had one good album, and that's it. And it fit the time. And if you were in New Jersey if you were from New Jersey in the late 70s, I could see how you liked Bruce Springsteen. But those days are long gone. He's a fucking idiot. He's a moron because he doesn't understand anything about politics and about the law. That's what bothers me about all these people. They say they know, but they think with their feelings. There's a duality in reality. There's a duality in life. Everybody knows this if you know anything about esoteric teachings, the Hermetic principles, et cetera, there are polarities, et cetera. Okay, there is the realm of your mind and there's the realm of your heart. And you're supposed to balance the two. It's called equilibrium. You temper your feelings with your heart. You temper your feelings with your intellect, and you temper your intellect with your heart. Because pure intellectualism is evil. And pure emotional response is stupid, obviously. All right. KTSA, Philadelphia DA sparks outrage after vowing to hunt ICE agents the way they hunted down Nazis. Now, this guy is a district attorney. And we all know who this is, right? Larry Krasner. This is a small bunch of wannabe Nazis. That's what they are. Now, this guy's a law enforcement official. In a country of 350 million, we outnumber them. If we have to hunt you down the way they hunted down Nazis for decades, we will find your identities, we'll find you, we will achieve justice. His opponent says the language escalated tensions and raised concerns about rhetoric directed at federal law enforcement. Obviously, this is the same thing with Ellison in Minnesota. You know the law. Ellison was talking about the FACE Act. It's like that applies to places of worship also, if you read the updated legislation. For him to go out there and know and falsely claim that it's just about abortion clinics is wrong. Larry Krasner, of course, who was elected through donations from the Soros Foundation, it's the only way he would have got elected, that he goes out there and he talks about federal law enforcement being a bunch of wannabe Nazis when he knows perfectly well about the Supremacy Clause and that these are legitimate federal law enforcement operations. He knows all this, but he is accelerating, heightening the rhetoric, dangerous rhetoric, divisive rhetoric. that we've already seen the unintended consequences of. I think intended consequences. So most people do. Most people understand. Okay, more about the insanity. Ex-New Jersey GOP aide still carries visible scars after she paid fetish artists to carve her up as part of Trump attack hoax. Now, I didn't hear about this previously, but this happened some time ago. And she's just getting out of court today. The Maserati driving former New Jersey GOP aide accused of paying a fetish artist to carve up her skin in a staged anti-Trump attack still bears the horrific scars. The Ocean City resident arrested in November allegedly paid a body modification artist $500 to slash dozens of gruesome wounds into her face, neck, and chest, back, and shoulders with a scalpel on January 21st. She staged the bogus attack at Egg Harbor Township Nature Preserve, claiming 3 assailants held her at gunpoint, mutilated her skin, and wrote Trump whore on her stomach and yelled MAGA country. No, they didn't. I'm just kidding. But it's like, remember when I was just talking about the was it Alex, the Frost attack at Sundance? It was the same fucking thing. And then you have this thing with Ilhan Omar, and then this woman. If they're all hoaxes because they're trying to portray a false narrative or trying to buttress a false narrative that Trump supporters are bad, evil, whatever. And that what worries me about the Krasner remarks is the reconciliation that's coming, and it's going to be a purge, which I'm scared about, which is what you saw on following January 6th. That is going to be nationwide, targeting anybody who supported Trump, who is MAGA, etc. Now, it'll snowball, but it'll start very slowly and people won't even notice. And there'll be fake articles, and you'll have these socialist DAs saying, oh, these people said, the people like that threaten Republican lawmakers, nothing happens to them, even if they go on shooting sprees. But if Republicans in the near future threaten Democratic lawmakers, all those people will go to prison for years. Reuters reports ICE officers in Minnesota is directed not to interact with agitators in new orders. We know exactly why this is, and this is we don't want to ruin the midterms. And this is all about the midterms, all this violence and stuff and rhetoric and to portray Trump in a bad way so the Democrats could get political control again. And so the federal government has decided not to press the issue. Now, we'll see. Because Trump wants to see if he could take the high road in this argument. We'll see. It is the high road regardless, but it wants to seem in the general populace that he's taking the high road and, pulling back a little bit, even though it pisses us off. I think they should go after these people more, just like they did in Oregon. Federal agents arrest Antifa militants, leftist agitators for anti-ICE attack on federal building in Eugene, Oregon. Demonstrators taunted officers throughout the day, violently banged on the building's windows, and shown high-powered green lasers that can cause blindness at agents stationed on the roof. All insurrection activity. Of course, they should all be arrested. And I have to agree with Jesse Waters when he says, you know what? It should be whack-a-mole. You should send in these rapid response teams. And I know you have to launch investigations and it takes time, but to go in stealthily, investigate, launch your operations, pull out, go to another state, do the same, and then come back to that state. Because it's the prolonged, and even with the surge, because then there are more agents there, even with the prolonged presence, it becomes problematic. I think you should call it an insurrection and send in the National Guard or federal troops. I mean, this is ridiculous to have people, civilians, in the street attacking federal buildings, federal law enforcement. It's insurrection behavior. Insurrectory. It's not even a word. The incident follows patterns of protests in Oregon targeting ICE operations, including prior events in Eugene and Portland, where Federal Protective Service officers, as well as ICE tactical teams and other federal agencies, have clashed with demonstrators, resulting in neighborhood blocks resembling war zones, while anti-ICE protests have been occurring at the Eugene Federal Building. Since last year, there's been a notable increase in the tension at Tuesday's demonstrations and protesters gathered over the death of Alex Preddy, 37, in Minneapolis, who was shot and killed by Border Patrol agents. Stop saying that. It's ICE. Was it ICE or was it not ICE? Goes on to say, local reports, KVAL News documented federal agents making arrests throughout the day. The demonstration became intense around 1 p.m. when agents exited the building to detain a protester, resulting in intense confrontations. It's unclear how many arrests were made, but protesters claim to have counted at least 9 individuals being taken into custody by federal agents. The direct action concluded around 10:30 p.m. Bring back the baton and the water cannon. You see, punishment for crime is a deterrent. If you don't have a deterrent for people breaking the law, they're just going to break the law. They can LARP around and go, Protest is different than direct action. Then there's a list of people who were arrested. I think it's 13. New York Times has the headline, Minnesota judge says ICE violated nearly 100 court orders. The judge condemned the agency for disobeying directives stemming from its aggressive crackdown in the state. Oh, it's aggressive. In a separate case, the Trump administration lawyers argued that the surge of agents was a legitimate exercise of federal power. It wasn't? It is. And I don't fetishize it at all. Like I said, I don't like to engage with the police. Never ends up well. But I certainly think they should arrest these people. Post-millennial DOJ arrests 16 agitators in Minnesota for assaulting federal law enforcement. Nothing will stop President Trump and his Department of Justice from enforcing the law. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced on Wednesday that 16 people have been arrested in Minnesota for allegedly assaulting law enforcement in the state. This comes as the Trump administration has been carrying out immigration enforcement operations in Minnesota, with agents being targeted by anti-ICE agitators. You don't have the right to interfere with law enforcement. You want to protest? Sure, you can protest. You want to blow your whistle? Blow your fucking whistle. Film and blow your whistle. But don't put yourself in the way. You can't block vehicles, can't block the road. You can't impede law enforcement officers or agents. Here's a list of these people that were arrested. Oh, I think this is the list that I showed before. Yeah, same list. The Federalist has the headline, Democrats want to keep illegals in America to rig the census and congressional appointment, if you didn't know. Democrats have recognized that their very survival as a national party rests upon importing millions of foreigners in the United States, if you did not know. While Democrats may claim that their stance stems from their supposed compassion for illegals, the real reason is their illogical and unsustainable position can be found in new data disclosed by the U.S. Census Bureau, if you didn't know. What the data showed is many red and toss-up states experienced notable gains in population, while many blue states saw loss of residents. Put another way, Americans are fleeing, that's Freudian slip, freeing themselves from predominantly Democrat-run states for those fully or partially controlled by Republicans. Also, in those blue states and blue cities, sanctuary states and cities, that those illegal immigrants are being removed that have been previously counted in the census. According to the American Redistricting Project, the Census Bureau's new data indicates that based on 2025 population estimates, the country's 2030 appointment would result in several red and red-leaning states, Texas, Florida, Arizona, gaining congressional seats, while blue and blue-leaning states, California, New York, Illinois, on the other hand, are projected to lose seats. Where Democrats' unhinged opposition to deportation comes into play is the fact that the Census Bureau counts illegal aliens when conducting the census. This, in effect, skews the overall population count and results in states with large numbers of illegal immigrants being apportioned for more congressional seats than they are otherwise entitled to. They're cheating. Just the News also chimes in here. Stay with me now. Red states set to see gains in U.S. House seats and Electoral College census projections. Several blue states appear to lose Electoral College votes, while red states will make sweeping gains. New data from the U.S. Census Bureau suggests. On Tuesday, the U.S. Census Bureau announced a significant decrease in U.S. population growth, largely due to less international immigration. A decrease in population growth. That doesn't mean a decrease in population. It just means that Joe Biden imported 10 to 12 million people. And now you don't have that. So the population was growing at a clip that has now been reduced to a trickle. However, the analysis of the census data revealed that several noteworthy takeaways in domestic migration trends that could affect Electoral College and congressional makeup, and what was revealed in the Federalist article as well. Republicans have enacted mid-decade gerrymanders in states like Texas and North Carolina by drawing maps that aim to further silence the very communities driving the most population growth. And what exactly is this guy talking about? Poor urban areas where poor, unskilled migrants ended up, illegal migrants for the most part, where they would slice into, because they're traditionally vote Democrat, they would slice into that, to the Democrats would, to redistrict, to make red districts purple or blue, because you have a dense population around urban centers, mostly with a higher percentage of low-income people who vote Democrat because they want, because they're poor and they want money. And most poor people aren't educated, so they don't know. They think that's a government money tree or something. Like, the government has all this money in a bank and they could just give us some. It's not how it works. What they do, at your request, is to print money. And that devalues the currency, so that's when you go to the grocery store to buy your fucking donuts, that your donuts are more expensive. And you're like, hey, why doesn't Trump tell these grocery stores to bring down the prices? It doesn't work that way. It's not that the prices went up, it's that the value of the money in your pocket went down. And that happened because you asked the government to print money so they would give you some. Post-millennial Kara Switcher compares Stephen Miller to Nazi leader, calls for his imprisonment, much like Larry Krasner or Tim Walz or everybody else on the left. Everybody's a fucking Nazi. They're a fascist because they don't like communism. Why don't you like communism? Maybe because the communists in China killed, 90 million people? Maybe because the communists in Russia killed 20 million? I know. But the communists in Cuba only killed 40,000. Insane. Oh, what about Hitler? Hitler was a National Socialist. So he was center left. Wasn't right wing. People think it was right wing. Oh yeah, Hitler really, really respected individual liberties, didn't he? No, he didn't. So what did she say? People like Stephen Miller will go down in history as evil, have blood on his hands, and should be jailed at the very end of this. So there's another call, like Larry Krasner, hunt down Nazis. There's another call for reconciliation, which will be a purge. They're calling for it right now. And Trump still has 3 years left in his term. They're already calling for it. Even you had, what was that fucking guy on MSNBC, that bald, bearded turd? I want to see Stephen Miller dangling from the gallows. What a fucking cocksucker. Don't they realize the political violence is caused by that specific rhetoric? Fucking cocksucker. Kara Switcher went on to say, and it would at last like to call out Stephen Miller, who is the center of this. We will always focus on Trump, as we often focus on the top people, but Stephen Miller, like a man named Bendestein, he was the one who created the internment camps for the Japanese, Heinrich Himmler and the Nazi regime. This is what he is. Stephen Miller created internment camps. He did. Oh, ICE detention facilities or internment camps. Really? Did those Japanese come here illegally? No, they didn't. And most of them weren't Japanese, but of Japanese ancestry. I don't condone the internment camps of World War II. But they were all here legally. You're not even making a fair comparison. And you're comparing a Jew, Stephen Miller, to Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, the Nazi death squad, the esoteric, mystic, black magic death squad that had the Totenkopf as a symbol, that actually a guy running for a Democratic office had tattooed on him, that Totenkopf. Who the fuck is the Nazi? You don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. It's just fucking rhetoric. Sorry. Moving on. The Federalist. You can't have a secure border without deportations. Deportation is a primary penalty for unlawfully entering the United States. It is also the most effective deterrent to would-be illegal border crossings. Full stop. Deportation is the primary penalty. It is the primary, but it's the only penalty. If you come here illegally, you get deported. Again, uneducated about the law, you don't get to sit in front of a judge and say, well, I've been here 10 years and I pay my taxes and I have a family and I'm a Maryland dad. That doesn't matter if you're here illegally. Goodbye. If you have a legitimate asylum claim, okay, I guess. Not really okay with me, because most of the asylum claims are illegitimate. Why? Because the people that came up here were told by the liberal NGOs to seek asylum. So everybody who was encountered by Border Patrol said, I'm here seeking asylum. Even if they didn't have a legitimate claim. New York Times. America at a boiling point. Deaths, threats, protests, and town hall attack. At an attack at town hall in Minneapolis amid a surge of threats against lawmakers was the latest sign of a fraying in national political fabric. The New York Times doesn't know what they're fucking talking about either. This was obviously, the thing with Ilhan Omar was obviously staged. A guy lunged at her and she went at him like a tough person. That guy would have kicked her fucking ass. She knew it was fake. And why would you risk all that and cause a big media attention if you're just going to spray her with apple cider vinegar? Like it wasn't acid or it wasn't even poop and piss water. It was vinegar. Why would you do all that to spray someone with vinegar? It's just like the assassinations in Minnesota. It's fake. It's fake. Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat of Minnesota, became the latest target of violence. Violence? Violence? Getting sprayed with vinegar is violence? On Tuesday evening, when a man charged at her at a town hall used a syringe to spray her with a liquid that smelled like vinegar before he was tackled by security. That's violence. Getting sprayed with vinegar is violence. So you're not acting violent towards law enforcement if you kick and punch and grab them or wrestle with them. But if you're sprayed with vinegar, oh, that's violence. It's a bunch of bullshit. And I should have had this a little more up front. I did play the video briefly, but I should have had it more up front because you saw the people that commit hoaxes. Rhetoric, hoax, false narrative. After the incident, Miss Omar, after the incident at Miss Omar's town hall, Mr. Trump, who survived 2 assassination attempts in 2024, did not offer empathy. Instead, he questioned whether it had been staged, which I agree with. Even before he said he had seen the video of it, she probably had herself sprayed knowing her. And I absolutely agree with him. But look at the way New York Times frames this. After the incident at Miss Omar's town hall, Mr. Trump, who survived 2 assassination attempts in 2024, did not offer her empathy. So you're trying to say, so some guy sprayed vinegar on her. That was an assassination attempt? How could she be killed by vinegar? She's a slug. What can you kill with vinegar? And of course, they talk about Minneapolis. It was a town hall in Minneapolis, right? Yeah. It was where George Floyd, a black man, capital B, was killed by a white police officer, small w, a death that sparked widespread protests and a racial reckoning because you call George Floyd a black man was killed by a white police officer, which he wasn't. As you want to argue that all you want, he wasn't. He wasn't asphyxiated. You can't strangle someone by putting your knee on the back of their neck. It's not where your windpipe is. He couldn't breathe because he was having heart trouble because he was fucked up on drugs. I think it was fentanyl. And he was, I believe he was, he didn't like to be confined, obviously. Whatever. I don't want to revisit George Floyd. It's such a fucking bullshit story. On Tuesday night, Miss Omar did not retreat. As she was confronted, she moved forward toward the assailant, raising an arm before security tackled him. I survived the war, she said. Yeah, that's how you know it's false, because he was larger than her. I mean, she had security there, but it was staged. Because what if he had a knife or a gun or whatever, or a syringe that was filled with something that was harmful, poison maybe? What if it was filled with sarin? DJ media, mainstream media hacks are terrified of Bari Weiss simply because she's objective and tells the truth. This is what I've been saying for so long. Bari Weiss, the young, dynamic head honcho at CBS News, is not at all interested in being accepted by the lefty communist collective clique that has a stranglehold on American mainstream media. Ms. Weiss is decidedly left-leaning in her politics. She is something that we don't see much of anymore, an iconoclast who broke away from the leftist hive mind and survived all subsequent cancel attempts from the bedwetters when Weiss very publicly left the New York Times in 2020. She called out the editors for being wusses and caving to the woke Twitter mobs, which of course they did. But rather than losing her resolve and apologizing to the cancel Nazis, the usual path for lefties who go astray, Weiss leveraged her outsider status, thrived by creating the free press on Substack. Last year, new Paramount Sundance chairman David Ellison decided to shake up the moribund and dishonest CBS News division by putting Weiss in charge. What strikes fears into the hearts of every mainstream media hack in America is that Barry Weiss operates under the very principle that real journalism should be objective, which is not liked by postmodernists, and not wrapped in a cheerleader skirt, despite the very detractors are behaving the way her very detractors are behaving. She's not asking CBS News employees to put on MAGA hats and get American flag tattoos. She merely wants them to somewhat behave like real journalists, which is being objective, portraying two sides of the argument and coming to a fair conclusion, which, as far as I'm concerned as a journalist, I like to leave the conclusion up to the reader for the most part. You may hint at a conclusion. It depends where the facts take you. But you need to present the two sides of the argument because that's why it's news. And you should always be skeptical as a journalist for anything you're told. Obviously. What you want to do is prove someone to be lying. And they do that with Trump all the time. He lies, he lied 100 times, and then you look at all the lies that they outline, and they go, well, it's a partial truth. It's not. It's an exaggerated truth. Well, that's not, those lies in politics are acceptable. But good news. Associated Press, FBI executes search warrant for 2020 election files in Fulton County. FBI agents executed a search warrant at the Fulton County Elections Office near Atlanta on Wednesday, seeking records tied to the 2020 election. A county spokesperson said. Fulton spokeswoman Jessica Corbett Dominguez declined to comment further. FBI agents secured an area around the large warehouse building that houses the county elections hub with yellow tape and could be seen loading boxes from the buildings into trucks. FBI spokesperson Jenna Salito confirmed that the boxes contained ballots. Among the 220 election documents were sought ballots, tabulator tapes, and from the scanners that are usually tally the ballots, election ballots, images, and voter rolls. President Trump has for years focused on Fulton County, Georgia's most populous county and Democratic stronghold, a key example of what he claims went wrong in the 2020 elections. Good. And one of the reasons, too, is that the Georgia election officials were stalling on turning over Georgia voter rolls, which the federal government wants to examine and purge any non-citizens, illegal immigrants, shit like that. But Raffensperger is still there, says, no, you can't do that. Why? Wouldn't you want to have clean voter rolls? No, you don't. Because it's harder to cheat. The more registered voters you have, the easier it is to cheat. Because if you're doing mail-in ballots, it just can't exceed the number of registered voters. So miraculously, look at all the votes we have. We have 90% participation. When usual elections don't have more than 60. It's because of the mail-in ballots. Yeah, but the registered voter isn't the one filling them out. All right. Also, Fox News says FBI agents search election hub in Fulton County. Not immediately clear what FBI agents were investigating. Yeah, we know. The wafer-thin margin claimed various instances of fraud. And we know everything that happened here, right? Is that it was that in 2020, it was that place where there's a water main break and everybody's got to go. We're closing down the counting center. Then as soon as everybody left, people went right back in and started moving around boxes. They had hidden ballots underneath the table and stuff. Nothing to see here. And you're allowed to have observers. President Donald Trump lost the election in Georgia in 2020 by a wafer-thin margin. Yep. One American News, U.S. Treasury hosts Trump accounts summit to kick off national savings rollout. You didn't know what was happening here. It's a federal initiative where the Trump administration, backed by donors like the guy, Dell, and also Nicki Minaj, are helping to fund savings accounts for newborns, which will be started at birth by the federal government. And each savings account will be seeded with $1,000. Now, $1,000 is a lot of money. I mean, to some, right? Isn't $1,000 a lot of money? For eligible U.S. citizen children born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028. So only during the Trump administration. AP, Federal Reserve keeps interest rates unchanged even as Trump continues to insist they be lowered. They don't want to do that because they don't want to spur the economy. Just the news. With two dissenters, Fed keeps interest rates steady in first meeting of 2026. Federal Reserve officials kept lending rates between 3.5 and 3.75 after issuing 3 cuts last year. In a statement, officials pointed to low job gains and stabilization and unemployment rate behind their decision. That always happens. When inflation goes down, unemployment goes up. I mean, you can't really get around that. But there's no reason, but they don't want to spur the economic growth anymore. And it's not like the economy is overheated yet. So they should have cut it one more time. But they won't do that. So they cut it. I guess they had 3 cuts last year. It was right toward the end of the year. It was 3 quarter-point cuts. I thought it was only 2. And here's the bad news. Daily Mail, Nipah virus. Trump administration on alert as deadly virus with no cure sparks COVID-era quarantines. India's health administration revealed Wednesday that 196 people who came in contact with the infected patients are now being monitored for the virus, which can spread from person to person and kills 40 to 75% of those it infects. Is it 40 or is it 75? 40 and 75 are disparate numbers. Yeah, it's another thing. It obviously it couldn't come out of China, but India is close to China. It's the same thing all over again. When are people going to wake up? Really? I'm starting to get hoarse. Are we over? I think we're about an hour right now. So let's keep going. New York Post, Kathy Hochul snubbed twice in hunt for running mate as she struggles to fill New York City lieutenant governor post because she's running for re-election. Queensboro President Donovan Richards and State Senator Jamal Bailey, she has to have a black person, both recently turned down Hochul, who's had a bit of cursed history with the role. The governor even tried to ask Richards a second time, only to be rebuffed once again. She sucks. She's evil. She's evil, and she sucks, and she's fucking ugly. She's a short little painted monster. That's not rhetoric. I'm not asking anything bad to happen to her. Not calling her a Nazi. She's a weirdo. Is that too violent? Is that violent rhetoric, calling somebody a weirdo? And believe you me, there are a lot of fucking weirdos in America now. Unabashed. Fox News, Tyler Robinson doesn't want video of Charlie Kirk's murder introduced as evidence. Tyler Robinson's lawyers claim footage of September shooting at Utah Valley University would violate fair trial rights. Why? He was killed. You're being put on trial for his murder. He was murdered. You have video of the murder. He was caught with a sniper rifle. Charlie Kirk was killed with a sniper rifle. It's evident in the video. You could hear the crack. And then the wound appears. Do you know anything about ballistics and acoustics? Do the timing, and you can almost judge how far away he was when he took the shot. That's why all the friggin' morons, he was shot with a pistol at close range. You have to know how sound travels. I mean, it's just so dumb. It's like, and that crack is not a pistol shot. Anyway. All right. Next up, AP Democratic Senator Klobuchar says she's running for Minnesota governor after Governor Walz drops out. Minnesota, we've been through a lot, she says. These times call for leaders who stand up and can't be rubber stamps in this administration, but are willing to find common ground and fix things in our state. Yeah, you got to fix the fraud, and you have to fix the fucking law enforcement lunacy. What's wrong with people? I really don't. Even in the municipality I live in, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with people? It's really, there was some sort of mind virus or COVID fucked up their brain, or the trauma of COVID fucked them up. Fucked up. One American News, California Meta and YouTube face jury in LA trial over claims their app causes addiction harm to minors. Here's the deal with social media. Is it addicts you, and then when you're addicted, it feeds you the dangerous propaganda. But if you're not addicted to it, you won't succumb to the propaganda. You just go, what the fuck is this? You shut it off. But you're addicted to it, they can slip in shit. And with the Facebook experiments where they watched you with your cell phone camera, they watched to see how you would react to stimuli, your facial expression. Nobody knew that. And before they were using the camera, there was what was called a face sensor. Why was it even in there? It was to sense your face. Why? It's dark. All right, thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to engage the channel, like, subscribe, leave a comment, share the podcast. Join me every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. on Rumble. Or you can find me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, True Social, X, Substack. Remember, you're under attack psychologically and biologically. So stay hip to the trick. Stay hip to the trick. And I'll see you tomorrow, which is Friday, so we're almost at the weekend. I think I caught a cold, which is kind of like a bummer. Thank you, Coco Bear and Dizzy, for chiming in on Rumble. We'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for joining me. Respect.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.